usually contribute to the productive capacity of the country. Okay? If we put money into the military, that doesn't in and of itself make us more able to produce stuff. It protects us, but it doesn't make us more able to produce stuff. But what we know is because of crowding out, investment falls. And so if you look at the composition of GDP, over time, when you're running deficits, you get less investment and you get more consumption type stuff that you consume and it goes away. This is really important. It's subtle, but it's really important. Do you understand what I said? Some of you do. Good. Okay, now, back to this graph. Long term. Okay? Short term, this doesn't matter. Long term, it does matter. Remember, output depends on labor and capital. Okay? And stuff. And suppose we say labor's growing at 3%, capital's growing at 3%, output's growing at 3%, and then we start running deficits. As a result of the deficits, our investment goes down as a nation. Okay? It still happens, there's just less of it. Okay? How does that affect this equation? Capital isn't growing as fast because we're not investing as much. So maybe this drops to 1% just to make it clear what's going on. Labor's still growing at 3%, but now capital's growing at 1%. What's going to happen to the economy over time? It's got to slow down. Okay? It's got to slow down. That's the pernicious long-run effect of running budget deficits. Okay? If we looked at here, time, okay, GDP, real GDP. All right. This is our 3% growth. This is when we start running deficits. Okay. When we start running deficits, two things happen. I'm restating myself here. Two things happen. First, short term, the economy gets a push. That's the party. Okay. It bumps us up higher than we would have otherwise been. Okay. That's this thing going on. But then when the dust settles, the economy slows down to a new long-run rate, which is slower, flatter, than we were before. Okay? What we're assuming here is we start running deficits of a certain amount, say $200 billion, and we keep doing it forever. Okay? I mean, and what happens is at first it helps, and then it hurts. Okay? At this point, we find ourselves in a situation where our GDP, our standard of living, is lower than it would have been if we'd never run the deficits. How long does it stay lower? Forever. Unless we try to reverse things. Or we could run a bigger deficit, and that would kick the can further down the road to the next generation, which, by the way, is exactly what we've done in this country. Okay.
And now, is it, never mind.
How long does it take to get from here to here?
Not too long.
The studies, the best studies that I've seen suggest 30 years. Okay? So people that were starting their work lives in the early 80s got the benefit of the party. Okay? And that includes me. Where are we now? What time? What year? How far down the road are we?
32.
About 30 years, okay? Every generation after this will be worse off than they could have been. That's bad, but that's not even the worst part. What's the worst part?
That's only gonna get worse.
Well, it's not going to get worse. You don't even know about it because you don't see where you could have been. Okay, this is like a cancer. It grows slowly. It kills you slowly without you even knowing it for a long time. Okay, what's the solution? How do we fix this? The only way to get back to that point is to reverse the process. Not balance the budget, but run surpluses to build back, to increase our capital back up to where it needs to be. Notice this also. How long do you have to do that? How long do you have to run surpluses? Until this line gets back up to this line. Okay? If we started it early, how long would that have been? Not long. Because the two lines are really close together. The longer we put it off, the harder it gets, the bigger the pain, the longer it takes.